U.S. Championship, anybody can win. There's going to be upsets. It's going to be a good tournament because it's going to be really close. I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. I've noticed something the last few years, which, you guys may or may not agree with. When the top players play people who are 50 to 150 points below them, they don't do as well as the rating would suggest, if that makes any sense. So what I mean is, when the top 10 players in the world play people who are ranked between 50 and 150, they don't do as expected. And a lot of this is it's a closed system. There's no entropy, okay? And so in the closed system, everybody has the same rating and they're playing each other and they keep their ratings. And in this other system where people are playing all kinds of tournaments, their ratings are going up and down and they're trying to get into that bubble of the top ratings, like Iragasi is doing, like Gukesh is doing. And when the top players leave their bubble, they realize the other players aren't so bad. So they don't like to leave the bubble. They don't like it. The Pyro Gamer subscribed. The top 10, 15, 20 players in the world are very afraid to risk their rating against people rated 2,600 FIDE to 2,700 FIDE. They don't want to play those guys. Because it's, if they have a bad tournament, they're not playing well that tournament. They could lose 20, 25 FIDE points and go from like number 6 in the world to number like 17 in the world. So by Anand playing very little, his rating stays about the same. Everybody else is like, moving up and down, mainly down. And by the way, if you didn't know today, and at least half of you don't know, there's some league match where countries are playing each other and teams are playing each other. I don't know. And Magnus played somebody rated 2560. I never heard of him. He's a Grandmaster. And Magnus was black and they drew. I don't think Magnus was ever better. But that's not good for Magnus's rating when he's black and he draws a Grandmaster who's much lower rated than him. See, if Magnus was black against me, he would tear me to shreds. However, at my absolute best, when I was playing my best, he wouldn't tear me to shreds sometimes. I would draw sometimes with white. Not now. Now I'd get 0 out of a million. So these guys who are pretty good, who are 2560, 2660, if they have white against Magnus, they don't necessarily lose. And an example of that, a year ago, Magnus played in a team match and drew like an IM, like 24 something, and Magnus was white. And Magnus was winning, but he missed the win. Some Norwegian guy. So that's really bad for his rating when he plays somebody and draws, which means he could have played fine, but he loses rating points. So a lot of times they avoid that because he doesn't get much reward, but there's a lot of risk. It's not rating inflation. It's just that it's not as open a system as it's supposed to be for the ratings to be accurate. So to give you an example, imagine prison chess. So let's say people play in a prison and the prison has a limited population. There's not millions of people in one prison. There's, a few hundred. And so maybe one guy's better than everybody else. Maybe he's 1,800 strength and the second best player is 1,200. Well, if the 1,800 wins 200 games in a row and they're rated, he might get to like 2,200. But he's not really 2,200 strength, but it's a closed system. There's nobody from the outside to play rated. And if you're top 10 in the world or top 20 in the world and you want to protect your rating, you play people your own rating. Then 50% means you keep your rating. If you play people 150 points below you and you don't do well, you could lose a lot of points. So you're risking your rating for not much of a reward. Conversely, if you're on fire and you're kicking ass, like we've seen some examples, Fabi in Sinkfield Cup 2014, Fabi in Vaikanze about 2 years ago when he got 10 out of 13. if you're playing people your own rating and you're winning, you're having a good tournament, you're +4, you can gain 15, 20 points. And the only way you're going to lose a lot of points is if you're getting your ass kicked. And if you're getting your ass kicked, then you probably shouldn't be 2770. You know what I mean? No? Yeah. And there's an infamous example of the reverse. Because if you don't have the reverse, then that you can't, the exception doesn't prove the rule then. Back in the 60s and early 70s, Bent Larson was the opposite of this. Bent Larson, when he played people his own rating or better, didn't necessarily do very well. He lost to Fischer 6-0, and when he played the rest of the world, USSR, he lost with White against Spassky in like 18 moves, although he actually had a good tournament. But when Larson played people 2,300 to 2,600, he destroyed them. His weird play confused them, and he would win dozens of games against people who were 200 points less than him. Larson was really good at beating low-rated players. And for a while, about 15 years ago, this was Hikaru Nakamura's greatest asset. It's not clear how Hikaru was going to do against top 10 in the world, but it was clear if Hikaru played people 2,400 to 2,600 FIDE, he was going to beat them tactically. They just couldn't hang with him. So his rating was going up and up, playing people who were worse than him, which is risky. You play people worse than you and they beat you, your rating goes way down. It's risky. And, when Carlsen plays people 2,500 to 2,700 in that FIDE rating range, he's risking his rating by just drawing. I mean, if he's black and the game is a boring draw or nothing much happened, if he's playing in the World Championship, that's good. Easy draw with black, easy draw in a Super GM tournament, and then win with white. But if he's playing Rufus and Doofus, you can't be drawing with black. You got to beat Doofus with black. And, that's not really fair. If you play in a 10-round event and you're 5-0 with white and you have 5 draws with black, if it's a Super GM tournament, you win the tournament and decisively. But if you're playing in the Doofus Open, the World Open, the Chicago Open, the North American Open, some open tournaments in Europe, and you have 5 wins and 5 draws, you're tying for 4th place or 5th place. And you're losing rating points because he's so much higher rated than everybody. So it's risky for Magnus to play people who are much lower rated than him when it's rated. Because, he could win, he could beat me 3 times in a row and then draw me once and he's down rating points. So he's like forced to win every game, and chess isn't a win, chess is a draw. So he's forced to make his opponent make mistakes. And when he has black, that's not as easy. So it's not that it's unfair, it's just that that's why the top players like to keep their system closed. They don't like to play people who are much lower rated, not good for their rating. The U.S. Championship is a very risky tournament for Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana and Aronian. If they score 50% in the tournament, they're going to lose 20 FIDE points. And they're going to go from number 7 in the world to number 14 because they couldn't beat everybody because those guys are good, Guys are good. Yeah, he could have played Queen A8 check in my